thinking about the fact that there's so much time of the year that we could be outdoors, but we're kind of not, because it's either buggy or you know, a little bit rainy or a little bit cold, and that this kind of space, you know, I mean, there's a tradition of porch spaces, but to really have a porch or kind of green space at the heart of the house seemed to be something that I really wanted to try to achieve, which is a tricky business because, of course, the realtors don't regard your, you know, using quarter of your house for porch as a particularly advantageous real estate idea, but so. But I wanted to achieve that, and my husband particularly wanted to try to have a lemon tree in the heart of the house, so that was his sole requirement. So I am using a product where we use sort of sliding doors that can kind of retract all along that inner face of the house. These are relatively high performance windows, so we're getting reasonable performance. And so being my own client, in a sense, is a kind of laboratory, because I've thought about it for years, all the kind of real realities of houses, which is, you know, the stuff, the junk, the dirty dogs, the dirty shoes. And this is what houses are about, and we can make them look beautiful, but in fact, you know, what they have to serve is the stream of the intense, constant activity of our lives. Both I and my husband tend to work in the house as well, so it's not only a sleep space and family space, but a work space as well for all of us. So sort of trying to figure out some simple way to manage that, and you know, how big should a house be that can manage that is really the question. So here, again, the house is about 3,600 square feet, including a supplemental apartment, which we did get approval for. Keep losing that. So this is a little supplemental apartment on the lower floor here, and then again the root cellar type space. We did make plans for an elevator, so that we wanted to make sure that that's planned in from the get-go in case we need it. You know, we have some of the features of a solar thermal and high efficiency boiler. Again, the supplemental apartment, I think, is something that people are pretty keen on as a way of being able to extend the reach of who they can accommodate. So these are the sorts of images that sort of run through my head that I was trying to capture in this house. Again, sort of the idea of the courtyard at the heart here with its little lemon tree, sort of a masonry heater that is sort of off that space. The greenhouse, Japanese bath that you can do your seedlings and do your planting. There he is. I thought about a lot about laundry, and so this idea of this multi-utilitarian sort of green. I mean, basically, from a thermal point of view, this is the kind of warm, wet space that then, if we can use that selectively to take that air into the house, this is the kind of drier, wet space of the sun space that can take warm air into the rest of the house. And I'd love the masonry house to actually be like a hole in the floor with a fireplace, but of course the code doesn't allow that. But this is sort of the view of the house. Sorry, it's kind of revity because the masonry hearth looks like a kind of a big bunker or something. But it's sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to. That's not insult. But this is the idea of the space that the timber is harvested locally at some great trouble. A lot of the mills are shutting down now. I used local red pine. This is from Leverett. Got cut, got peeled. We've cut beams. It turns out, of course, it's relatively strong wood and very beautiful, but also required some additional structural work. So in the end, I don't think it's saving any money. It just makes us feel wonderful having it. And then we're also going to be using the Calwall Nanogel, which I recently heard that someone's developed a process to reduce the price on that 80%, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to be the beneficiary of that savings. But it's relatively expensive, but it does give you an alleged R20 wall, so actually a little lower than that by the time you're done with all the actual calculations. But it does give you good daylighting, so you have light without the heat. It's very interesting to stand next to a nanogel wall. You don't feel the heat of the sun coming through it. So hence on our east and west walls, we're able to tolerate that. And actually see, part of the idea is that we are a very book-intensive family, and that we'll have a bookcase system that actually sort of partially goes over some of this. So we're seeing it as a kind of filtration of light through our stuff. It appears as the upper floor level, so kind of the idea of these sort of 2 bedrooms kind of perched above the courtyard space. Again, I think a very romantic view of life, I guess. The winter modes using the sun space, used selectively, the masonry heater, about a third, 28,000 calculated heat loss without accounting for the solar and masonry heater. So we do expect a fairly high yield on the solar hot water panels. In the summer, of course, that courtyard gives you a pretty nice stack effect to ventilate. Other couple things that are sort of innovations, risky innovations really, is this is a sandy site, so I thought it might be appropriate for what's called a frost-protected shallow foundation. I'm pretty nervous about it, but it seems to be going well. It's actually far more work actually than doing a regular foundation, because people know how to do regular foundations, but you do use somewhat less concrete. But it actually was suitable for this with a timber frame structure. So we're also using a fiber cement-based SIP, which is also not very widely known, but offers some very significant performance. I had it tested at UMass. Still a little nervous about it, but I think it'll be interesting to see how. And I very much look forward to having the opportunity to use materials like this if I think they work for other kinds of houses, maybe not quite so eccentric as that. Anyway, this is the painting by my daughter that some people know that my husband wrote this book called 1491, which is underpinning the foundations of this house for sure. And, that's our new dog, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. That was fabulous. I always like learning about Ray's house because and the idea of a development, because it goes up right next to Owen Drive, which is the epitome of the sort of development we'd like to shy away from. Not if you live in Owen Drive, it's a lovely place, but it's maybe not.
Member of the planning board and
Oops. But it's perhaps not all that green. We were going to have 4 speakers tonight, but unless she's out there lurking somewhere, we seem to have lost one. So we're moving on to our third and final speaker, Bruce Coldham, who is the principal architect of Coldman and Hartman Architects here in Amherst. He graduated with a Bachelor in Architecture in 1969 from the University of Melbourne, and for the following 4 years worked as an architect in that city. Sorry. He immigrated in 1982 to the US and completed his MED program at the Yale University School of Architecture. Since 1989, he has run his own architectural practice here in Amherst, which is dedicated to producing high-quality, high-performance buildings for clients who really care about producing good, enduring architecture. Since 1989, he's led the effort to establish co-housing as a viable housing option here in the Northeast, including founding the Northeast Co-Housing Quarterly, which is now part of the National Co-Housing Journal. He's been an active member in the Northeast Sustainable Energy Association, or NESE, which just ended today, and that's why he's fortunately here. And he's been a member of NESE's board of directors for 9 years and was chair of the board for 3 of those years. He's 3 times been chair of its influential Building Energy Conference. In 2000, he received its Distinguished Service Award. He's a member of the Town of Amherst Planning Board for 7 years, which is really quite something. Thank you. And from 1995, starting in 1995, and was the co-founding chair of the town's Comprehensive Planning Committee. He's been an active member in Governor Deval Patrick's ZeroNet Energy Building Task Force and continues as a member of the Mass ZeroNet Energy Building Advisory Council. He's been a member of the American Institute of Architects since 1999, and in February 2010, just last month, was elected as a fellow. And I must say, he's been one of those architects in preparing Greening the Valley who's you know, he's worked tirelessly at this.